Now, today we are going to discuss biomolecule. This is the 7 marks का chapter है जो board exam के लिए बहुत ही important है. If you can, we can see that a living system grows, sustain, reproduce itself. कोई भी living system है, it may be plant or animal. वो हमारा क्या करता है, ग्रोथ होती रहती है, उसमें सस्टेन करेगा और उसमें रिप्रोडक्शन होता है. नए प्लांट्स हमारे उससे जनरेट होते रहते हैं, न्यू एनिमल्स. Most amazing thing is that the living system is composed of non-living atoms. This is the chemistry. Though plants so or maybe animal, but उनका जो main component है that is made up of atom or molecules. The pursuit of the knowledge of what goes on chemistry within the living system falls in the domain of biochemistry. Biochemistry. We are going to discuss a biomolecule that belong to biochemistry. Living systems are made up of various complex biomolecules like carbohydrate, protein, nucleic acid, lipid, etc. Protein and carbohydrate are essential constituent of our food. These biomolecules interact with each other and constitute the molecular logic of processes, life processes. In addition to some simple molecules like vitamins and mineral salt also play a very important role in the function of organism. The structures and function of some of these biomolecules are discussed in this unit. In this unit, if you see that we have to discuss that, what are the characteristics of biomolecule? Carbohydrate, like biomolecules are carbohydrate, protein, nucleic acid, and hormones. Later on, we will discuss the classification of carbohydrate, what is the protein, what is the nucleic acid, what is the vitamins, and all these, And finally, you have to discuss the difference of DNA and RNA. Now, what is the role of biomolecules in our biological system? As a whole, if you see that, what is carbohydrate? So carbohydrates are primarily known as, hydrates of carbon, hydrates of carbon. And its general formula is going to CxH2O whole Y. Okay, and were considered as the hydrates of carbon from where the name carbohydrates are derived. For example, glucose is C6H2S12NO6. But the value of X is going to be 6. Now I will explain. We have to discuss one short topic. Now the most important topic this chapter is biomolecule that is going to constitute 7 marks. और this board में अगर हम बात करते हैं, this going to come in the 7 marks. Very very important chapter. In this chapter you have to study about carbohydrate, and the topic is your protein, and third topic is your vitamins. Then after about the nucleic acid, means DNA and RNA. And after that we have to study about that hormone. Got it? And the first and foremost thing is that अगर हमारे पास कोई भी if we go for the basics of this chapter, biomolecule. What is actually biomolecule? What is actually biomolecule? Got it? हमारे पास अगर कोई भी organism है, it may be plants or animal, it is going to break ऑर्गेनिज्म की बात करोगे दैट हैविंग ऑर्गन. An organ is made up of tissues. Once you break the tissues, you will get cell. Identical cell having same function is known as tissues. When you break the tissue cell, you will get cell organelles. And cell organelles are basically like mitochondria. You may have Golgi body. You may have cell wall. Like you can have endoplasmic reticulum, etc. And finally genes. And these are made up of these are all known as cell organelles, and cell organelles are made up of biomolecules. ये biomolecules से बनते हैं. Finally, biomolecule is a non-living organism, non-living components. Biomolecule की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो biomolecule further can be divided into carbohydrate, as we can see here, carbohydrate. This is the very important part of our food. Then protein. फूड इंटेक में हमारी सेकंड सबसे हाईएस्ट प्रायोरिटी प्रोटीन की रहेगी. And that is your vitamins that required in a small quantity. And after that we need DNA and RNA in our body. Later on is hormones are also very important. When we talk about the carbohydrate first, the first topic is your carbohydrate. What is actually carbohydrates? Carbohydrates. Hydrates of carbon. In the verbal meaning, if you see that, this is the hydrates of carbon. Great. This is the verbal meaning of carbohydrate. And its general formula can be right, CX H2O whole X. Let us take an example. Like glucose, C6H12O6. This is the chemical formula of glucose, as well as fructose. You can see that here the value of X is going to be 6. The value of X is going to be 6. If I will take here common, CX H2 whole X, and X is going to be 6. But it doesn't mean that all the hydrates of carbon are going to be carbohydrates. Why? अगर हम बेटा यहाँ x की वैल्यू को क्या ले लें 2 ले लें और फार्मूला विल बी C2H2O and whole 2, and if you expand it you will get C2H4O2, and this is going to be carboxylic acid. Its formula is CH3COOH, and this is the ethanoic acid, and that is the carboxylic acid. So this cannot be carbohydrate. This is the exception of that particular definition. This is not a carbohydrate. Then what will be the most appropriate definition of carbohydrate? अगर हम carbohydrate की most appropriate definition की तरफ जाते हैं तो what will be the best definition? The best definition, if you want to understand, You have to see the example of either glucose or fructose. In case of glucose and fructose, chemical formula is C6H12O6. Or if you see about the glucose, it is CHO, single bond, CHOH, then after OH will be an alternate like that, This is the OH, this is the H, then OH on the fifth carbon will be in the right hand side. This is the H and this is the CH2H. Now, if you see carefully that this is the main functional group that is known as aldehyde. Got it. And this is the chiral carbon. Because all the OH and everyone is different, But this is the chiral carbon. All together, you can see that there is one OH. This is the second OH, third OH, fourth OH. This is the fifth OH. This is a polyhydroxyaldehyde. When we talk about the fructose, the first carbon is CH2H, second carbon is C double bond O, and the third carbon OH will be in the left hand side, the fourth carbon OH in the right hand side, fifth carbon OH in the right hand side, sixth carbon we are having CH2H. This is the keto group. And then this is the this structure is going to give the complete definition and exact definition of carbohydrate. All the carbohydrate are. So we can see these two examples are there, glucose and fructose. Here I can write that carbohydrates are poly. Poly means many OH are there. Polyhydroxy aldehyde or ketone. Polyhydroxy aldehyde or ketone. Polyhydroxy aldehyde or ketone. But it should be optically active. So we have to add here one more term, What is optically active? यहाँ पे हमें एक टर्म और ऐड कर लेना, that is optically active. Optically active polyhydroxyaldehyde or ketone is known as carbohydrate. That is known as carbohydrate. Now, if you go for the classification, I can see that, carbohydrate further can be divided into categories. Type of carbohydrate. So then one can be reducing. What is the difference between reducing and non-reducing carbohydrate? Reducing and non-reducing. Reducing and non-reducing. One is known as reducing sugar, carbohydrate, and there is non-reducing sugar. Mostly carbohydrates are sweetened except the polysaccharides. So they are also terms as sugar reducing means the carbohydrate which reduces tolerance agent and failing solution. Tolerance agent and failing solution. For example, all monosaccharides. All monosaccharides. Maybe glucose, maybe fructose, maybe ribose, maybe deoxyribose, etc. And few disaccharides like maltose, lactose, galactose. Mal- Maltose, lactose or galactose. Now we see that what is the non-reducing sugar, then we have to go with the non-reducing sugar are those non-reducing. When we talk about the non-reducing sugar, then how we can define it? When we talk about the non-reducing sugar, got it? Non-reducing sugar, just reverse definition. यहाँ की definition को हम यहाँ copy paste करेंगे. The carbohydrate which do not react with tolerance agent and failing solution. That is known as non-reducing sugar. For example, your example is here with us, that is all polysaccharides. All polysaccharides and few disaccharides like sucrose is non-reducing. So sucrose non-reducing sugar and polysaccharide may you are having starch, glycogen, cellulose, all are non-reducing. Now if we see that In this case, if we see that, what is the structure of, glucose? Before doing the structure, one more difference is that is what is the sugar and non-sugar. What do you mean by non-sugar and non-sugar and sugar? Non-sugar. Sugar means sweet in taste, and non-sugar means that is not sweet in taste. Correct? Very simple definition of carbohydrate. Sugar means the carbohydrate which is sweet in taste, and non-sugar means that is not sweet in taste. चलो now structure of, before going the structure of carbohydrate, we will discuss classification of carbohydrate. Classification of carbohydrates. So carbohydrate can be monosaccharides. It can be monosaccharide. Mono means single. Saccharide means one molecule. Got it? This is the simplest carbohydrate which never hydrolyzed. जिसकी hydrolysis नहीं होती. Suppose करो we have C6H12O6. This is the one of the simplest monosaccharide. Do not hydrolyze. Hydrolyze नहीं होता. Hydrolyze इसकी हम इसको simplify नहीं कर सकते. This is said to be monosaccharides. It may be fructose. It may be deoxyribose. It may be even ribose. All are going to be monosaccharides. Got it? And the second one is known as, that is the oligosaccharides. When we talk about the oligosaccharides, that have in a minimum 2 to 10 monosaccharides in it. Minimum 2 to 10 monosaccharides. Such carbohydrate which on hydrolysis gives minimum 2 to 10 monosaccharides. That is known as oligosaccharides. Oligo means it can be di, it can be tri, it can be tetra, it can be penta, like that. It can be many more. And third one is known as, that is poly. Poly means many. When we talk about the polysaccharide, it have carbohydrate on hydrolysis. Carbohydrate on hydrolysis gives more than 10 monosaccharides. That is known as polysaccharides. When we talk about the polysaccharides, for example, we have plant mode, the polysaccharides are starch. Then we can have a cellulose in the cell walls, cellulose आपको मिल जाएगा plants में. One more you will get in the animal starch, that is the glycogen. Glycogen. The common polysaccharides we obtain, Later on, when we talk about the how you can prepare, if you want to prepare, but before the preparation you can have little one more classification. Carbohydrate can be further divided into, carbohydrates को हम further divide कर सकते हैं दो कैटेगरी में. One is known as aldose and that is known as ketose. Aldose they contain CHO functional group and ketose they containing ketonic group. And when we talk about so number of carbon atom, it can be triose and 3 carbon atom, it can be tetrose It can be pentose. It can be hexose. And all this can be either aldehyde, either it can have ketone also. Now, how we can prepare glucose? How glucose is prepared? When we talk of the glucose, it is prepared by in the lab. We can prepare carbohydrate, the glucose from sucrose. And you know the chemical formula of sucrose is C12H22O11. When it is going to do the reaction with water molecule. Water molecule chemical formula is what? H2O. And we need little dilute sulfuric acid. Dilute acid. Then you will get glucose and fructose. Glucose and fructose. Because sucrose is made up of glucose and fructose both. Both are the monosaccharides. One is aldose and that is ketose. The chemical formula is same C6H12O6, C6H12O6. But the glucose containing CHO group and fructose containing ketonic group. Now, same carbohydrate means same glucose I can prepare from starch also. Naturally, you can glucose and fructose by using invertage enzyme. Naturally, अगर आपको जानना है तो आपको यहाँ पे क्या लगा देना है invertage enzyme that will give you glucose and fructose. And the laboratory you can do by the simply dilute hydrolyzed dilute acid. Then when there is starch, its chemical formula is C6H10O5 whole N, and that react with N molecule of water molecule. And if you are using in the lab, you can use simply dilute H plus ion means acid, and biologically it is going by the diastage enzyme, or you can use here diastage enzyme, and you will get N molecule of glucose C6H12O6. You can see here, this is the carbon 6, hydrogen यहाँ पे 10, 2 is here and 10 is here. So 10 plus 2, 12. Oxygen is 5 and this is the 1, 6. So this is the finally glucose. This is finally glucose. Now, we can talk about the structure of glucose. Chemically, if you see what is the glucose, the topmost functional group is aldehyde group. Later on, you are having carbon with one OH in the right hand side. Got it? If the OH in the right hand side, it is said to be positive. Positive is also known as dextro. Dextro means होता है अगर इस सोल्यूशन के अंदर से लाइट को अगर हम पास करते हैं, दिस इज द लाइट, तो ये सोल्यूशन हमारी लाइट को ना क्लॉकवाइज रोटेट करा देता है, इसीलिए इसको बोलते हैं डेक्स्ट्रो. Then again third carbon, this is the C1 carbon, this is the C2 carbon, this is the C3 carbon. C3 carbon का OH हमारा लेफ्ट हैंड साइड में रहेगा, अपोजिट डायरेक्शन. C4 का कार्बन that will be in the right hand side. And after that, this is the C4 carbon. Fifth carbon का OH that must will be in the right hand side. And the sixth carbon that is CH2OH. And if you do the sum, you will get, all 6 carbon is there. C6 हाइड्रोजन आप चेक कर सकते हो. Hydrogen 1, 2, 2, 4, 2, 6, 2, 8, 2, 10, 11, 12. Total hydrogen is 12 and oxygen is 6. C6 is 12 or 6. See the position of this OH on the second last carbon or fifth carbon. If position of OH with respect to sixth carbon means CH2H is in right hand side, then it is also known as capital D. इसके रेफरेंस में हम क्या लिखते हैं, कैपिटल डी लिखते हैं. तो इसके रेफरेंस में हम क्या लिखते थे, स्मॉल डी और पॉजिटिव. तो दिस इज नोन एज डी पॉजिटिव. फाइनली इट इज अ ग्लूकोज, डी पॉजिटिव ग्लूकोज, डी पॉजिटिव ग्लूकोज. तो कैपिटल डी because the position of OH with respect to sixth carbon in the right hand side, then it is capital D. Position of OH with respect to CHO, if it is in the right hand side, then it is said to be dextro. Dextro का मतलब होता है अगर इस सोल्यूशन से लाइट को पास आउट कराएंगे, प्लेन पोलराइज लाइट को, ये लाइट को क्या करेगा, क्लॉकवाइज रोटेट करा देता है. तो इसको स्मॉल डी लिखते हैं पॉजिटिव. When we talk about the fructose, तो मोस्टली when we talk about the fructose, तो fructose और बेसिकली हम जो सुक्रोज में जो fructose मिलती है, that is D negative fructose. When we talk about the D negative fructose, the first carbon is your CH2H and the second carbon is your carbonyl group, because this is the ketone. This is your ketone. Then third carbon is your H and OH in the left hand side. कार्बोनिल ग्रुप के रिस्पेक्ट में अगर ये OH LHS में LHS लेफ्ट हैंड साइड, दिस इज गोइंग टू से नेगेटिव. नेगेटिव का मतलब होता है लिबो. दिस मीन्स LAEVO. लिबो मीन्स अगर आप इसके अंदर से लाइट को पास आउट कराओगे तो लाइट को क्या करेगी, नॉर्मल से लेफ्ट हैंड साइड रोटेट करा देगी, और दैट इज टेकन एज माइनस. इसको माइनस में लेते हैं. And you are having, this is the first carbon, this is the second carbon, this is the third carbon, and the fourth carbon OH is going in the right hand side, and the fifth carbon OH is going in the right hand side, and the sixth carbon will remain as such. Now see the position, this position on the fifth carbon. Now this is again same story. You can see that this is position of OH is in the right hand side. The right hand rotation is known as dextro. For that I will use here capital D. If position of OH on the fifth carbon in the fructose in the right hand side, it is capital D, and position of OH on the third carbon on the left hand side, it is negative. It is liborotatory. So this is your D negative fructose. Now one more question is arises, what is hemiester linkage? What is hemiacetal linkage? हेमिएस्टर लिंकेज क्या होती है? हेमिएस्टर लिंकेज इज दैट अगर तुम्हारे पास कभी भी, अगर हमारे पास यहाँ पे कार्बोनिल ग्रुप हो उसका रिएक्शन अगर हमने कभी भी किससे करा है, अल्कोहल से, then what will happen? Hydrogen is positive each other and this is negative. This bond will be, ये bond आपका break हो जाएगा negative and this is the positive. H आपका OH के साथ जाएगा and this carbon is going to make a bond with this carbon, oxygen. तो अल्कोहल एल्डिहाइड और कीटोन के साथ मिक्स हो करके इधर आपका देख सकते हैं अल्कोहल आ जाएगा, दिस इज द ईथर. दिस पर्टिकुलर बॉन्ड इज नोन एज हेमी एंड दिस इज नोन एज एसिटल. पर हेमी का मतलब होता है हाफ, हाफ एसिटल. अल्कोहल और एल्डिहाइड को मिलाने से एक एडिशन प्रोडक्ट बनता है, दिस इज एडिशन रिएक्शन एंड दैट इज नोन एज हेमी एसिटल. गॉट इट? और द सेम सिचुएशन इज फाउंड इन केस ऑफ कार्बोहाइड्रेट. ऑल द कार्बोहाइड्रेट मांग में अगर आपको दिखेगा, यू आर गेटिंग सेम सिचुएशन हियर, यू नो. लाइक हमारे पास सी एच ओ यहाँ पहले से बैठा रहता है और वहां पे हमारे पास बहुत सारे ओ एच लगे हुए हैं. ओ एच इन द राइट हैंड साइड, एक डी पॉजिटिव वाला है ग्लूकोज. थर्ड कार्बन को एच किधर होगा, लेफ्ट हैंड साइड. देन दिस इज द फर्स्ट, दिस इज द सेकंड, दिस इज द थर्ड. फोर्थ कार्बन को एच किधर होगा, राइट हैंड साइड. फिफ्थ कार्बन का ओ एच होगा, दैट विल बी इन द राइट हैंड साइड. एंड सिक्स कार्बन विल बी सिंपली CH2H. अब यहाँ पे सेम सिचुएशन है, वी आर हैविंग एल्डिहाइड एंड कीटोन एंड वी आर हैविंग अल्कोहल. हमारे पास यहाँ पे अल्कोहल और एल्डिहाइड कीटोन की सेम सिचुएशन मिल रही है. तो C1 कार्बन, इसका जो C1 होता है, दैट इज गोइंग टू मेक ए बॉन्ड विद द C5. ये हाइड्रोजन जा करके इससे फ्रेंडशिप कर लेगा and there will be bond between oxygen of this to carbon of this. तो फाइनली यहाँ पे हो जाएगा OH, दिस इज H, दिस इज द C1 कार्बन. C2 कार्बन को OH राइट हैंड साइड पहले भी है, अभी भी राइट में रहेगा. C3 कार्बन का OH आप देखो लेफ्ट हैंड साइड में, अभी भी पहले से ऐसा रहेगा. और फोर्थ कार्बन को OH किधर था, राइट हैंड साइड, वो अभी भी वैसे ही है. फिफ्थ कार्बन को OH वाज इन द राइट हैंड साइड. तो इसलिए ये जो हेमिएस्टल बॉन्ड बन रहा है ना, दिस इज द हेमिएस्टल लिंकेज, हेमिएस्टल bond that is going to in the right hand side with the fifth carbon. On last one is your CH2H. इसी को हम अगर थोड़ा सिंप्लीफाई करके दिखाते हैं तो we are going to represent like this: C then H then OH. हेमिएस्टर लिंकेज हम बाहर से दिखा देते हैं ऐसे. सेकंड कार्बन को OH राइट हैंड साइड, थर्ड कार्बन को OH लेफ्ट हैंड साइड, फोर्थ कार्बन को OH राइट हैंड साइड, और फिफ्थ कार्बन का OH राइट में है, इसलिए हेमिएस्टर लिंकेज राइट से है. सिक्स कार्बन को OH ऐसे दिखाते हैं. नो, द C1 कार्बन, ये जो पर्टिकुलर कार्बन है C1 कार्बन, दिस इज आल्सो नोन एज एनोमेरिक कार्बन. दिस कार्बन इज नोन एज एनोमेरिक कार्बन. और एनोमेरिक कार्बन C1 कार्बन होगा, और ये जो OH अगर ये रिंग के अंदर आ रहा है, हेमिएस्टर लिंकेज के अगर अंदर है, तो इट इज सेड टू बी अल्फा, जिसको हमें अल्फा बोलना है. वन वी टॉक अबाउट द साइक्लिक स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ ग्लूकोज, साइक्लिक स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ ग्लूकोज में हमारे पास ऐसे स्ट्रक्चर बनता है. This is the way to draw the cyclic structure of glucose. H is here. अगर OH आपको नीचे मिले C1 कार्बन पे, यहाँ पे रिंग के इनसाइड में रहना चाहिए या बिलो द प्लेन. दिस इज बिलो द प्लेन. कॉपी में अगर ऐसे स्ट्रक्चर बिलो द प्लेन अगर है तो C1 कार्बन में इसको स्टार लगा देना. दिस इज एनोमेरिक कार्बन. बिलो द प्लेन है तो इसको बोलते हैं अल्फा. C2 कार्बन का OH देखो यहाँ पे सेम साइड में है तो इसको लिखेंगे पॉजिटिव. इसकी वजह से आता है पॉजिटिव. और ये हेमिएस्टर लिंकेज देखो राइट हैंड साइड से जा रही है. इट इज ओनली पॉसिबल जो हमारे पास जो ग्लूकोज था उसका फिफ्थ कार्बन पहुंच राइट हैंड साइड में रहा हो. राइट हैंड साइड में होने पे कैपिटल डी लिखते हैं. तो ये जो स्ट्रक्चर हम बनाने जा रहे हैं दिस इज अल्फा डी पॉजिटिव ग्लूकोज ग्लूकोपाइरानोज. अल्फा डी ग्लूकोपाइरानोज. व्हाई इट इज कॉल्ड पाइरानोज? देयर इज एन ऑर्गेनिक कंपाउंड जिसमें 6 मेंबर रिंग होती है ऐसे. वन देयर इज ऑक्सीजन. दिस इज नोन एज पायरॉन रिंग. इसको हम क्या बोलते हैं? पायरॉन. और ग्लूकोज का जो स्ट्रक्चर है इस स्ट्रक्चर से मैचिंग होता है. दिस द OH इज हियर देन H इज हियर. यहाँ पे H लिख लो. नॉट OH you have to write यहाँ पे H. This is the H and this is going to be CH2OH. And if you do the sum, you will get the same formula again. This is the C1, this is the C2, this is the C3, this is the C4. हर पॉइंट पे कार्बन है यहाँ पे. टोटल मेंबर्स काउंट करो 1 2 3 4 5 6. यहाँ तक आते थे 6 6 हो जाएगा. काउंट द ऑक्सीजन की हाउ मेनी. दिस इज द 1, दिस इज द 2, दिस इज द 3, दिस इज द 4, दिस इज द 5 एंड दिस इज द 6. ऑक्सीजन आपका 6 आ गया. If you see hydrogen everywhere there is a hydrogen. Hydrogen is here and hydrogen is here. दो hydrogen है. 2 plus 2 4 to 6 to 8 and then this is the 9 to 11 and this is the 12. Hydrogen is going to be 12. This is the cyclic structure of glucose. Its name is alpha D glucopyranose. And fructose का जो स्ट्रक्चर होता है दैट इज फ्यूरानोज रिंग उसमें मिलती है. उसको बोलते हैं फ्रक्टोफ्यूरानोज. फ्रक्टोफ्यूरानोज. Now if we talk about what is like that, how you can prove that. Glucose having 6 carbon atom. Straight chain. अगर हमसे कोई बोलता हाउ कैन प्रूव दैट यू कैन ग्लूकोज इज हैविंग 6 कार्बन स्ट्रेट चेन, तो देयर इज एविडेंस दैट C6H12O6 एरो पे अगर हमने क्या डाल दिया HI. दिस इज द रिड्यूसिंग एजेंट. यू विल गेट हियर N-हेक्सेन. N-हेक्सेन का मतलब 6 कार्बन की स्ट्रेट चेन आ रही है. CH3 CH2 CH2 then CH2 then CH2 then CH3, and it is only possible that if glucose is having 6 carbon straight chain.